he just didn't even have a chance to be a real kid.
Two Detroit parents accused of beating and killing their 5-year-old child are behind bars tonight. What we're now hearing from the family. CBS News Detroit at 6:30 starts now.
Live, covering all of Southeast Michigan, CBS News Detroit at 6:30 starts now.
Well, the heavy snow may have stopped for today, but there's another round coming. Thanks for joining us tonight on CBS News Detroit at 6:30. We are streaming live on the CBS News app. I'm Shayna Humphreys.
And I'm Jeff Skaversky. We're tracking more snow in the forecast after parts of southeastern Michigan got as much as 8.8 inches of snow yesterday.
Next, weather meteorologist Ahmed Badji joins us now. So we already got a few inches, Ahmed. How much more?
That's the thing here is we've kind of got these little bursts tonight and then again tomorrow night before we get into an even bigger system over the weekend. We're getting all the snowfall just kind of smushed into a 7-day period here. We have even more going into next week. We're making up for lost time after January began as one of the warmest Januaries since the early 1930s. Now, for right now, you can see on Doppler radar, heavier snow showers east of Ann Arbor. The issue is this little pulse right here that's basically riding along 94 and then eventually actually along Michigan Avenue as well, by the way. All of this continues to be something that drops visibilities down below about a mile, so it's worth keeping an eye on there if you are somebody that's going to be driving through that, all the way up toward Livonia as well. Going further to the north, this band that's moving north of Waterford and over toward Ortonville, that's a good heavy line of snow showers too. It can drop up to about an inch for this evening, maybe an inch and a quarter. Those obviously are far less than what we had yesterday. As Jeff said, our top spot was 8.8 inches of snow. Lake Orion 7.2, you had 6.8 in Croswell, 5.4, one of the lower amounts in Howell. So going into it, there were a lot of 7-inch reports from Ypsilanti to Livonia up through Rochester. So it's been an interesting setup to see how that melted and compressed actually over the past few hours. Now the next 7, here's the thing we're looking at. Going into Friday evening, we have this clipper that dives on in. And normally those bring with us an inch or two of snowfall, and we could pick up an inch of snow on Friday evening. Now Saturday night, going into Sunday, that PM snow into Sunday morning. That gives us a bigger system, and there are a lot of different moving parts with that. So I need a little more time to talk about that. So we're going to go over the hour by hour and actually talk about how that'll actually move on through and affect really your weekend before we get into the real cold air next week. We're going to talk about that in our next look coming up.
We'll need to make plans around it. Thank you, Ahmed. New at 6:30, the fight over the rightful ownership of a Van Gogh painting at the Detroit Institute of Arts is still not over. Today, a federal appeals court ordered the museum to hold on to the artwork until further notice. This is a story we've been following. Our Ray Strickland is on Woodward in Midtown with what's next as the legal battle makes its way through court.
The Vincent Van Gogh exhibit here at the Detroit Institute of Arts may be over, but the legal battle over who should be in possession of his painting novel Reader is far from it. And now a federal appeals court is, at least for now, siding with the collector who sued the museum, telling the DIA to hold on to that painting until further notice.
Federal appeals court judges are ruling in favor of a Brazilian collector who claims a Vincent Van Gogh painting that was on display at the Detroit Institute of Arts was stolen from him years ago. After a district judge dismissed the collector's lawsuit to force the DIA to return it, the federal appeals court is granting the collector's request for an injunction. And now the court is ordering the museum to keep it until further notice.
I wouldn't assume that because it's gone to the appeals court that the ruling is going to change in the end.
The Brazilian collector Gustavo Soter claims he bought the Van Gogh painting back in 2017 but gave it to a third party to store it. In court filings, Soter claims they eventually lost contact and the painting, known as the novel Reader, was nowhere to be found until Soter saw it at the DIA. What's interesting here is the museum was loaned the artwork and the DIA was later granted protection under what's called the Immunity from Seizure Act given to objects loaned from overseas.
It's hard to say. I mean, the DIA does not play any role in this. It is a completely innocent party. They've done everything that they're supposed to do. They've done it.
Jeffrey Abt, an art and art history professor from Wayne State University, says it will also be hard for a judge to force the museum to give it back to Soter since it has a contract with the person who loaned it to them.
And it's not entirely clear that any court can tell the DIA to just willy-nilly tear up that contract.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the DIA said this in response to the order, quote, the DIA will fully comply with the order from the U.S. Court of Appeals regarding the custody of the novel reader and will be responding on January 30th to the plaintiff's recent pleading. The DIA will have no further comment prior to a ruling by the court.
And I did reach out to the attorney of the man suing the DIA, but was told he will not comment. Reporting in Detroit, Ray Strickland, CBS News, Detroit.
For those of you in Wayne County, our Ray Strickland is always covering what matters to you in your community.
New at 6:30, two Detroit parents are behind bars tonight after being accused of physically beating and killing their 5-year-old son, as well as beating their 3-year-old. Our Alicia Bergio spoke to the family today in Detroit about this tragic story.
He just didn't even have a chance to be a real kid.
Mourning the loss of her nephew, Ashley Belcher is devastated. 5-year-old Ethan Belcher's life was taken too soon.
It's so sad that he's not here anymore. It hurts my heart so bad because I wanted to save that baby.
Belcher says Ethan and his brother were physically beaten for years, constantly covered in bruises and cigarette burns, even in and out of the hospital at times. The state of Michigan had gotten involved, but Belcher claims they turned a blind eye.
How did he not get checked on? I mean, I don't understand how the system can give him right back and not follow up.
On Sunday, police were called to a home in the 14,000 block of Spring Garden Street in Detroit. Ethan was taken to a hospital and died. Shane Shelton, Ethan's stepdad, and mother, Valeria Hamilton, are accused of beating the boy to death. They've been charged with felony murder, child abuse, torture, and conspiracy to commit torture.
Anybody who can beat a baby to death, beat him to death. Like, he's not here anymore. Anybody who can do that deserves to rot under a jail somewhere.
Belcher says what these kids went through was unimaginable, and her nephew deserves justice.
The system failed this poor boy. They really failed him. It takes this for somebody to listen. It shouldn't take a baby to die for them to do something.
New in a CBS News Detroit tonight, both of the accused are behind bars in the Wayne County Jail without bond. They are due back in court next month. We did reach out to Child Protective Services for more answers. We did not hear back. For those of you in Wayne County, you can always find our Alicia Bergio in your community working to tell your stories. Michiganders will be able to vote earlier for the 2024 presidential primaries.
The state Senate passed a measure today moving the vote from mid-March to late February. The measure passed 20-18 along party lines. The move would make Michigan one of the first states to hold a primary alongside the traditional first states, Iowa and New Hampshire. Michigan Democrats say the earlier date would help put more focus on local issues, but Republicans say it will cause them to lose 85% of their delegates to the national convention. The bill still has to pass the House and then be signed by Governor Whitmer before it becomes law.
The Detroit Lions will no longer be the only professional football team in the city. The United States Football League is coming to the Motor City. Earlier today, the league announced Detroit will host two franchises this year, the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars. Both teams will play their home games at Ford Field. This after the entire league played in Alabama last year. The season kicks off April 15th. The Detroit Panthers will make their season debut at home at Ford Field Sunday, April 30th. You can access the USFL tickets on the league's website. For those of you in Belleville, don't forget we're in your neighborhood around the clock, always streaming on the CBS News app.
And our forecast going forward leaves us with more snow going into tomorrow, but while it is mainly focused in the evening, we don't heat up until after. And we'll show you why coming up.
CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Macomb County. Hi, we're CBS News Detroit. But we don't just cover the news here. We're also here, and everywhere in between. You know, the places you live, work, and play in Southeast Michigan. We're talking less of this and more of the stories that actually matter to you.
CBS News Detroit. On your block, around the clock.
That's right. Local news just found a home in your neighborhood. We're CBS News Detroit. Live, streaming, and on demand. Nice to meet you. CBS News Detroit. On your block, around the clock in Wayne County. CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Monroe County.
CBS News Detroit, the stories you care about.
Live, streaming, and on demand. We're on your block, around the clock.
Southeast Michigan news whenever you want it.
We live here. We work here.
From North Branch to Southgate.
East Point to Westland.
Wherever you live, we're here for you.
Making a difference in your neighborhood.
CBS News Detroit. Live, streaming, and on demand. Building a better newscast, one story at a time.
CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Oakland County.
How would you build the newscast of the future?
Expect the unexpected.
CBS News Detroit.
CBS News Detroit.
Southeast Michigan news whenever you want it.
We're ready to go live from your community.
Anywhere, anytime.
Live streaming and on demand.
That's the name of the game.
We are ready. CBS News Detroit, in your neighborhood. Live, streaming, and on demand.
Welcome back to CBS News Detroit at 6:30. On top of the snow coming back, we're also seeing some cold winds blowing our way. Ahmed back with us as we check on that weather.
So how much wind are we talking about? Something that's actually going to get in our way?
Not anything like damaging like what we had earlier this season even, but breezy enough that it's going to start to drop the wind chill down. And actually next week when we get a lot colder with highs back down in the low 20s, wouldn't you know it, that's when the wind starts to pick up even more, dropping our wind chills then well down into the teens and single digits at that point. So that's kind of the issue we have to watch for here. It lines up at the worst possible time. But before we get into the wind, let's talk about the snow showers we have right now outside your window. You have some of the heavier showers right here, just going east of Ann Arbor, actually over toward the Canton area, right down Michigan Avenue, up toward Livonia, basically right in between of there, going right down Ford Road as well. So if anybody's walking out through IKEA, you're probably walking on into a pretty solid snow shower right now. Heavier snow right up along Pontiac Trail and then going right along M10 as well, going even north of Pontiac, north of Waterford right there, Lake Orion. You've got heavier snow showers right along 24 still moving their way on through, and that's going to continue to the east. It's all basically west to east, so no other issues that we have to work for with it. So as we go with that line, low 30s continue to hold, upper 20s in just a few spots. Adrian, Mount Clemens, Lapeer dealing with the upper 20s. That leaves us with a pretty solid chance for us to start to freeze up a bit more overnight as our temps once again drop. But actually they drop even further, looking at the low 20s going into the start of the day on Friday. Mid-30s though in the afternoon as more snow showers along this clipper start to dive on in. Low 30s there on Saturday. Another round of snow heavier on Saturday night, and that's going to be kind of the key there because that's our next system. And again, these are normal systems here for us. This is not any type of wild thing. The one yesterday, it was nasty as it happened, of course, but now we've already started to clean up pretty easily. Roads are almost back to normal. It's the same type of thing, but we're looking at a solid few inches there going into Sunday morning. By Tuesday, look at how much colder we get with lows down near 10 or 11 on Wednesday and Thursday, and that is also when we get some solid winds starting to pick up, something that Jeff and Shana were just talking about, with wind chills then dropping well down into the single digits. Before tomorrow, around an inch from that snowfall Friday evening. Snow begins on Saturday in the afternoon, and the higher amounts are going into the very early hours on Sunday. So let's actually time that system out for you, because while we get into Friday evening, and that clipper right here is the one that dives its way on through with maybe a quick inch right there moving its way in, the heavier snow moves in Saturday evening, and right here you can see going all the way into Sunday morning. And that's going to be the whole setup with this one. Now, we're just far enough out that it leaves us with maybe a few question marks on that upper end. You know how we gave ranges with this last system. We can give you a minimum. We're looking at probably about a minimum of 2 to 3 as the bottom line, but the top part is really going to take just a little bit of adjustment so we can figure out where the divide is. For instance, down in Toledo, where they're going to end up with more mix rather than just snow.
But you don't think it'll be a foot, right?
No. Okay. We're staying well away from that number.
Your numbers were pretty spot on for yesterday.
I mean, I'm really proud of this team, and it's a team effort. It really is all of us working together.
All right. Thank you, guys. Yeah. And remember, we are always on your block around the clock, including in Hamtramck. Our CBS News app is available to download for free.
The IRS is now accepting and processing tax returns. I'm CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger with tips and free tools to get your refund quickly.
CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Macomb County. Hi, we're CBS News Detroit. But we don't just cover the news here. We're also here, and everywhere in between. You know, the places you live, work, and play in Southeast Michigan. We're talking less of this and more of the stories that actually matter to you.
CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock.
That's right. Local news just found a home in your neighborhood. We're CBS News Detroit. Live, streaming, and on demand. Nice to meet you. CBS News Detroit. On your block, around the clock in Wayne County. CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Monroe County.
CBS News Detroit, the stories you care about.
Live, streaming, and on demand. We're on your block, around the clock.
Southeast Michigan news whenever you want it.
We live here. We work here.
From North Branch to Southgate.
East Point to Westland.
Wherever you live, we're here for you.
Making a difference in your neighborhood.
CBS News Detroit. Live, streaming, and on demand. Building a better newscast, one story at a time.
CBS News Detroit, on your block, around the clock in Oakland County.
How would you build the newscast of the future?
Expect the unexpected.
CBS News Detroit.
CBS News Detroit.
Southeast Michigan news whenever you want it.
We're ready to go live from your community.
Anywhere, anytime.
Live streaming and on demand.
If that's the name of the game.
We are ready. CBS News Detroit.
In your neighborhood. Live, streaming, and on demand.
Tax season is underway. The IRS has begun accepting your tax returns from last year. Worried about owing lots of money this year? You're not alone.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger has tips on getting your returns filed on time and getting your refund quickly.
Tax season is officially open, and here's what you need to know. This year should feel a lot more like pre-pandemic years, as most of the emergency pandemic relief programs have expired. However, due to a D.C. holiday, the tax filing deadline is April 18th rather than April 15th. Be on the lookout for your W-2s, 1099s, and other tax documents over the next couple of weeks, though many are already available online. As you prepare to file, remember that paper equals problems. File electronically and use direct deposit, and you will avoid the headache of a delay. If you're due a refund, then you'll likely receive it within 21 days of filing electronically, as long as there are no issues with your return. There are lots of great free resources available to help. The IRS works with a number of tax preparation companies to offer free online products for those who made $73,000 or less in 2022. Go to irs.gov/free file. Additionally, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VITA program, provides free tax help to those people who make $60,000 or less, persons with disabilities, and limited English-speaking taxpayers who need assistance in preparing their returns. Finally, Tax Counseling for the Elderly provides free tax help for individuals who are 60 years of age and older. In New York, I'm CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
So Ahmed Badji returns for one final check of the weather. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
You're working on your birthday, really?
I love doing this, though. Okay. My gift
Your gift was from Mother Nature.
That was the thing. I was really hoping for some snow. It was a bigger gift than, I was hoping for, admittedly. But here's what we got going on. One last look at the forecast, mainly on the snow. Moving into tomorrow evening, one last round, and then going into the weekend as well. You can see Friday evening, it's real light, that light blue showing you kind of just the easygoing snow showers. We'll pick up about an inch of snow for Friday evening, and then by the time we get into Friday night, that's where we actually warm up the most, and that sets the stage with the highs in the middle of the night, actually, sliding into the end of the day Saturday and changing everything over to snow for the system over the weekend.
All right. Thank you, Ahmed.
And thanks, Ahmed. Ahead at 7, we'll take another look at Governor Whitmer's State of the State address and break down her plans for gun control.
That's coming up in about 15 minutes, streaming on the CBS News app. Thank you for joining us tonight at 6:30. We'll wrap up this hour with a family in Texas who faced a huge challenge after the birth of their daughters.
This week, a medical team stepped in to save their life. Omar Villafranca shows us that incredible effort.
She was like doing the ultrasound, and then she was looking, and she's like, "Oh, there's the baby's head." And I was like, "Well, if that's the baby's head," I was like, "What's that?" She's like, "That's the other baby's head."
And we were like,
I was like, "What?"
James Finley and Amanda Arcianiega are the proud parents of 2 tiny miracles. But when doctors told the North Texas couple the twins were conjoined from the breastbone to the belly button, they were terrified.
On the ride home, we were like quiet, and it was kind of sad. We were like thinking, why us?
It's an extremely rare condition with a high death rate.
Conjoined twins that reach and stay viable after birth, at least for the first few days, there's really only about 5 to 8 of those per year.
Born last October, baby girls Jamie Lynn and Amy Lynn were lucky just to survive birth. Then Dr. Jose Iglesias and his team at Cook Children's Medical Center had to figure out how to surgically separate them.
First one for me, first one in a 105-year history of Cook Children's Medical Center.
The procedure required months of planning.
We'll do one baby, re-prep, do the other baby.
Dr. Iglesias and his team even built models of the twins' anatomy, mapped out surgical plans, and choreographed every move they would need to make. And this past Monday, the big day finally arrived. The doctors broke up into purple and green teams, and the girls' nails were painted in coordinating colors to help differentiate them.
You set? Set, A, B, set.
From there, 3 anesthesiologists, 4 pediatric surgeons, 2 plastic surgeons, and 18 other clinical professionals worked methodically, first to separate the twins and then to close up their wounds.
Slowly, slowly.
After an 11-hour procedure and after months and months of waiting, James and Amanda finally got the news they were waiting for.
You have 2 babies on 2 separate beds.
You know, something like this, I'll be brutally honest with you, there is no playbook.
Wednesday, the medical team behind the surgery announced their success to the world.
They're going to grow up into the little girls that they're supposed to be.
Twins have a special bond, but these little girls now share something else. They're part of a medical miracle.
When they get older, how are you going to teach them to share?
I don't know. Like they said, there's no playbook.
Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Fort Worth, Texas.